Welcome to another edition of the DHN Crypto Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Wade Teamer. Listen, I think the good times have rolled. Bull run, it's over. But the good news about that is we get to prepare for the next cycle. And even if I'm wrong, and I don't think I am, because I have data I'm going to share with you in today's show that supports this theory. But the sooner we're able to prepare for the next cycle, more money we're going to make. Plus, we have to talk about PayPal and their new Pay Crypto application pending New York Department of Financial Services approval. They could open the crypto payment floodgates for over 100 blockchain networks. I personally believe this lends to the theory I have that PayPal and college sports are about to become very close friends, guys. Also, Solana co-founder Anatoly Yakovenko bashed meme coins and NFTs, calling them digital piles of trash with no intrinsic value. But if you look deeper into his comments, I think it highlights a bigger problem with decentralization in general. I'm going to unpack that as well, guys. And I have another question I have to share with you. Was Ripple right to privatize RLUSD? And how will it affect adoption of both the RLUSD and the XRP ledger going forward? We really need to get to the bottom of this, guys, because we waited so long for this stablecoin to launch. And we heard so many things about what would happen after the fact. We have yet to see a lot of those things. So, and then before we get out of here, guys, like I said, I'm going to share the data that I have with you on why I believe the good times have rolled. And with that, I'm also going to share with you the Elite 8 projects that I will be holding for this next cycle. I like to call them the Elite 8 for 2028. Oh, we're going to have some fun today, guys. And one more announcement for you. Got a new way to support the brand, the Digit Hustle Network, to support yours truly. Fixed my website issues, guys, and if you go down to the link in the description under this video and in the pinned comment, you'll see the brand new digithustlenetwork.net. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where I will start placing all of my content, my entire portfolio of work. We will have written material that I will add there. I'm also bringing in contributors as well. This truly represents the next era for DHN. Ladies and gentlemen. And if you're wondering where you can get access to the digital library, it'll all be right there on the site. And it's a lot easier to interact with as opposed to the bio site that I was using before. So when you get a chance, guys, go to digitalhustlenetwork.net, support the brand. Now, let's get into this show. Starting with PayPal, ladies and gentlemen. Got to share this story with you. PayPal drives crypto adoption with Pay Crypto app. They're truly opening the floodgates with this one. And again, still pending New York Department Financial Services approval. But this new Pay Crypto will essentially bring all payment-based cryptos into the same hub. So now, if you're engaging with PayPal or Venmo, because this will also include that as well, I'll touch on that in a moment. But if you're interacting with either one of those platforms, you now have the option to not only pay with PYUSD, PayPal stablecoin, USDC, which has been wrapped up into their ecosystem, but now we'll start to see assets like Tether, Stellar, Alchemy Pay, XRP. I'm trying to think of another one that is often used as a form of payment. The list is really very big, guys. And honestly, I would be on the lookout for a few months down the road, older coins like Dash, Bitcoin Cash, that era, Litecoin. Don't forget about Litecoin beginning to reemerge in the conversation because now they're being widely used as a form of payment, thanks to PayPal. Now, like I said earlier, that this is going to boost my theory on crypto being embedded into the new era of college sports. Remember, it was only a couple weeks ago that they announced the landmark deal with the Big Ten and Big 12 college football conferences. I just watched Big Ten Media Days a couple days ago, and a couple of the coaches were praising the new platform already. They were able to kick this off July 1st. Student athletes are already getting paid with the system, and the reviews are very promising. So, to that point, how else will they build this out? And how could it benefit a network like Stellar? Because you guys know, I have been pushing that narrative as well. I think Stellar is going to benefit tremendously from what PayPal, the infrastructure that they're building around sports. Now, remember when they added PYUSD? Well, they announced that they were going to add PYUSD to the Stellar network. And specifically, it would give PYUSD users on Stellar access to its vast network of on and off ramps. Now, a couple days after that, they announced something called PayPal World. PayPal World is supposed to be their platform to connect all forms of digital wallets. So if your wallet comes from your bank, it's going to connect. Credit union, it's going to connect. And it also opens the door for Web3 wallets as well. That is the opening that I see Stellar walking through. And when you add that with the Pay Crypto, as well as their deal with the Big 10, Big 12, college football, NIL, the infrastructure that has just been built by PayPal, they're now the backbone for college sports. And the opportunity for assets like Stellar and its PayFi cousin Solana is tremendous. Because what else is wrapped up in the PayFi ecosystem? Venmo, PayPal USD, Stripe, Visa, MasterCard, several digital wallet providers, as well as credit card providers, crypto debit card providers. So what I'm looking at are all the little pieces that would be needed to plug into each other to create this system. Now, obviously, we're still waiting on approval from the New York Department of Financial Services. Once they get the approval, they plan to launch in 2026. Now, as it stands right now, in relation to sports, everybody is still figuring it out because the deal was only established with 2 conferences. There are at least 4 more that PayPal could include here, and they wouldn't even have to go to some of these smaller conferences. I'm talking SEC, ACC. It's not a Pac-12 anymore. It's more like a 2. But they call them Power 5 conferences. PayPal only brought in 2 of the 5. If they get the other 3 conferences, just imagine how much liquidity is going to be running through that. I bring that detail in the conversation because the more players, the more schools, the more markets that you have in this ecosystem, it increases the likelihood that a wallet built on Stellar begins to take up some of that market share. Now, in reality, any other network could produce this. That is why I am crafting my Elite 8 to make sure that I have as much exposure from these 8 assets as I possibly can. So, bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, Stellar would benefit from the massive wallet usage in the new era of name, image, and likeness when it comes to college sports. That is my position, and I'm willing to stand on that until I see it happen. May not happen overnight, may take a few months, may even take a few years, but that's the game that we're playing here. In addition, set the launch for 2026. I believe we should hear some sort of approval by this winter, especially around playoff time. They always like to make big announcements. It adds to the spectacle, to the pageantry. So, big news coming out of PayPal, guys. Opening the crypto floodgates for sure. But let's change the tone of the conversation a bit. Let's talk about decentralization. I've been in the space for a long time, and I've gotten an opportunity to truly chew on this idea of decentralization. And Solana's co-founder, Anatoly Yakovenko's comments on memes and NFTs brought it all back up to me. He says meme coins and NFTs are digital slop. Amazing. With no intrinsic value. Now, crypto space, of course, had a field day with these comments, especially Solana haters, because, and this is true, when you look at the numbers, a large amount of the activity on Solana, meme coins and NFTs. At the same time, though, that same argument can be made today, even for Ethereum's early rise. A lot of meme coins, a lot of NFTs. But I believe his comments raise a deeper question than that. The subject of, is decentralization a gift or a curse, ladies and gentlemen? Because I've mentioned it before. Anyone who can build will build. And that includes good actors and bad actors. Sam Bankman-Fried was allowed to matriculate throughout this space for years. Okay? Long enough to establish the FTX brand, get it so big that it began to penetrate pop culture. He built all of this in a decentralized environment, decentralized atmosphere. Funny thing is, though, the biggest flaw to decentralization is the decentralization itself, because in a lot of cases, there's not a way to coordinate your vision. And we've seen networks fall victim to this time and time again in the crypto space. We've seen it. I want to point to Stater's definition of decentralization, and they point out its many advantages as well. But they simply define it as a decentralization of computing power. The concept of decentralization truly comes from the tech and coding software world, where the idea came from the need to distribute resources, make the job easier on everyone. Crypto sort of picked that up and ran with it alongside its anti-establishment nature. It kind of went hand in hand. Stater mentions a few advantages. You have the added transparency. That is true. The decentralized nature does allow for anyone to come on and build without needing permission or having to go through gatekeepers. Again, it fed the anti-establishment spirit of the early crypto space. And we can't really say just early, still very strong. But I want to point out James Howe's article here from 101 Blockchains that points out the disadvantages. They include legal, regulatory ramifications, the ability to scale. Like I pointed out earlier, a lack of coordinated vision. And then this last one here, technical complexity. That's user interface. That's the experience you have whenever you go to a DeFi protocol that someone shared with you on Twitter or maybe through Telegram and said, I'm getting 150% on my Hoobla Boobla token. Maybe you should try it. Then you go and try it. You have to sync one wallet, buy this token, then get this NFT, turn that NFT into a triangle, put that on another wallet, sell the triangle to get another token to interact with the protocol. That was definitely an exaggeration, but on the outside looking in, that's exactly what it seems like. All of those things stem from this decentralized nature that we have here in the crypto space. And ultimately, it opens the door for the meme coins and NFTs that Yakovenko believes are digital slop. So, which brings me to my point here, my position on this. Like I said, decentralization, its biggest flaw is lack of coordination. Decentralization's biggest flaw is lack of coordination. And I say that because in all my time here on this planet, and as of July 8th, 33 years, I've never seen a company thrive without centralizing its core processes at some point. It's inevitable. Knowing that, I believe we are going to enter, and we'll see it in this next bear cycle. We will. Because one thing that a lot of people don't like to talk about during the bear cycle is a lot of these favorite communities, these popular communities around these meme tokens, they disappear quickly. You know, random blog posts saying, yeah, sorry for, and due to, seen it numerous times over, guys. Get ready for the culling. I think Anatoly's comments highlight something that a lot of people don't truly want to get over in the crypto space. This market will centralize. It already is when you truly get deep into it, because the majority of the liquidity in crypto is only going to the top 25 coins on the market cap rankings. Only the top 25. Those are the only ones you hear about all over the publications. Those are the ones that are lucky enough to pop up into the mainstream news cycle. And I'm talking about your Uniswaps, your Ondos, Tether. That's a stable coin. That's kind of a given. Trying to think a little bit further down the list. Certain DeFi protocols I've seen. What's that? That Lido Finance, right? The market is already centralizing. How much longer will decentralization be the core here? That's kind of what I'm getting at. His comments to me really opened the door for something. And it really should make us think, guys. And by the end of this episode, I'm going to leave you with a piece of information that you can carry with you as we end the summer, get ready for the fall, get ready for school year, get ready for things to slow down. Okay? Don't worry about that. But we're going to take a little break here, guys. Coming up, we're going to dive into this Ripple and RLUSD discussion once again. Is it the best choice for them to privatize this stablecoin, or should they take the Circle route and make it publicly available for everyone? Come on back. Hey guys, I got a quick message for you. Let's say you're looking to buy some crypto like the ones mentioned in this video. Consider using our crypto exchange partner, Uphold. With Uphold, you get access to more than 200 crypto assets through its simple to use trading platform. Uphold has been around more than a decade, so it is a name you can trust. With over $2 billion in reserves and $44 billion in trading volume, I've yet to lose a trade on Uphold. To the more experienced investor out there, Uphold also has a line of precious metals and national currencies for more diversification. For me, I'm having fun using Uphold's baskets tool. Uphold lets us set aside a certain amount of money to invest in different sectors of crypto. With one click, you can diversify into the big three, meme coins, or the financial assets like Hedera, Stellar, and XDC. But listen, crypto assets are very volatile, and it is always best to manage your risk and do your own research before using any platform. I recommend Uphold because before I was an affiliate, I was and still am a user. So if you use the link below, it helps support the channel. I want to thank you in advance. Now let's get back to the video. So, is Ripple privatizing RLUSD a mistake? I think so. And I'm going to share you why. I believe so. And I'm going to share with you why. Initially, Ripple RLUSD was intended for enterprise adoption only. So, to illustrate what that looks like, the RLUSD stablecoin will be the main currency transacted between Ripple and its enterprise clients. These could include the notorious banking partners that we have heard Ripple has had for years. In comparison to other stablecoin offerings like PayPal USD, Circle, Paxos, and Tether, even with their recent changes, RLUSD, the placement of that stablecoin, if you don't know, you won't know. That's essentially what we're dealing with here. Whereas Circle just went public, PayPal USD is already connected to a public company who has been the backbone of digital finance going on a decade now. Paxos, they're backed here in the United States, and their individual offerings are starting to gain more traction because of its public user base. So we've seen in the past, when a network implements a stablecoin, if it's retail facing, it benefits the network tremendously. There are also private stablecoin offerings on the market, such as Gemini's dollar, the global dollar, which mainly services Singapore, and other independent stablecoins on various blockchain networks that are built similarly to RLUSD, focused on enterprise and private placements, but don't nobody talk about them. So I'm wondering if that is the problem, the red herring here when it comes to this RLUSD stablecoin. Should they have made the decision to make this thing public, distribute it freely on both Ethereum and the XRP ledger? Now, the way that they're doing it, let's look at the positives. They addressed market demand for stablecoins. We know how deep that went. Global stablecoin arrangements, Financial Stability Board, and G20 nations came together in 2018 to put together a plan to reduce cross-border payments, which, to that point, PayPal's new Pay with Crypto, in the first paragraph, what do they mention that they have successfully done with the new application? Reduce the amount of cross-border transaction fees. You gotta love how this stuff come together, ladies and gentlemen. But the positives, addressing the market demand. Stablecoins were everywhere. This we knew. It will also aid in compliance. Ripple's reputation after battling the SEC was tarnished. We know this. That RLUSD stablecoin diverted attention from their white on rice relationship with XRP. Okay, that's the best way I can describe it here. It diverted attention from their relationship with XRP by providing a stable price vehicle that their clients can use. So granted, that was definitely a positive benefit. And as it stands right now, the benefits of RLUSD for the XRP ecosystem still up in the air. We're still waiting to truly see what's going to happen. Ripple also brought in sidechain EVM compatibility, which truly opens the door for other stablecoins to be just as popular on the XRP ledger now. Circle has their eye on them. That is why they wrapped up the XRP ledger into Circle's new Circle payment network. They have plans. So, from a business perspective, yes, it was a very smart move on behalf of Ripple. They have a price stable, compliant stablecoin for their clients to use. And because the majority of their clients are large banks, large financial institutions that are dealing with 9 times out of 10 an entire nation's financial well-being, that price stable regulated stablecoin is a much more attractive play for them. And that is what Ripple obviously, that's the conclusion that they obviously came to. But on the downside, you have the competitive landscape, i.e., PayPal, Circle, Tether, Paxos, Gemini. And you also have to deal with the centralized nature of the offering. That's why I position the decentralization segment in front of this to kind of give you a primer here, because a lot of people are coming out, Zach XBT, for example, and criticizing the user base of RLUSD. They're criticizing these numbers that we're getting from Ripple and other participants about the adoption of RLUSD. Zach is basically pointing out that it may not be as big as they're making it out to be, which again addresses the problem of centralization being better than decentralization. Because to the credit of the public stablecoin issuers, you're providing decentralized access to your stablecoin, which is the best way to do it. I learned that actually from Danielle Dixon during their campaign press run after the Stellar and MoneyGram announcement. Their whole goal was to decentralize access to the financial system. On the back end, there is still, though, the centralized entity in the form of MoneyGram. And if you really want to take it a step further, when you go to market your network, your stablecoin, your app, you have to centralize your marketing efforts to one particular group. So to say decentralization is the heartbeat of crypto would be overlooking the centralized forces that put crypto in front of you in the first place. So a lot of things can come out of this conversation. A lot of arguments can be made as to whether Ripple was right or wrong here. My personal stance is I think they should have taken the public route. I believe had they just minted a heap ton of RLUSD, 100 million, 300 million, maybe 500 million. Don't see why they couldn't. Minted 500 million USD, split it down the middle with Ethereum and XRP. They could have done that. Or they could have just went and put the whole 500 million on the XRP ledger and told Vitalik and his Ethereum boys to step up. I didn't see that. So to answer the question, were they right to privatize it? No. I believe that they will see the error of their ways, and we will get to a point in the future where RLUSD is retail facing, available to everyone, and live on multiple blockchain networks, including Stellar. Oh boy, I can't wait for that day. That'll pretty much kill the tribalism, wouldn't it? If Ripple dropped a stable coin on Stellar. I don't know what else to do, guys. But let's get into some real business here, guys. I want to answer this question. I want to put forth the information that I have been tracking almost about 6-7 months here. 6-7 months. I believe this bull run started in January of 2023. That is when we were coming out of the longest bear market in recorded history, the dark ages of 2022. It was January 1 of 2023. We closed the month of January for the first time in the green. I believe that was around $16,000, roughly $20,000. Since then, guys, Bitcoin is up over 1,000%, and we are currently on day 798 of this bull run. The last two bull runs, on average, have only lasted 805 days, roughly. There is the one from 2019 to 2021, which was 883 days. So, with that, knowing that, I do believe that there is an opening in the next few months for us to recover and retouch 120,000. But 120,000, ladies and gentlemen, was the peak for right now. And I base that off of the fact that we have been raging since January of 2023. And I got the charts here. I took screenshots. Now, I initially captured this data in May. Okay? Late April, early May, officially. I was going to make some content about it. But then the market started to go the other way. And I was like, okay, not this May. Let me clarify. Not this May, last May. I began looking into this. But then we got into the election cycle. Donald Trump started making noise. And I said, okay, let's see how things play out. What we got was the exact same scenario as 2021. So what I'm getting at here is because we have been rallying for so long that what we're seeing right now is what they called a double top. So prior to Donald Trump taking office, we had that massive rally in November. So when we cracked six figures the first time, I believe we initially stopped at 111,000. Then we pulled back a little bit. I want to say that was February, March. Then we began to move up again. Now I started saying May, this what typically happens in May, people sell off, they walk away, they leave the market. That did not happen this year. So that definitely put a pin in this particular theory. So I go back to the one chart that I have been watching since I've entered the crypto space. I use simple indicators, RSI, relative strength index, Bollinger Bands. That gives me the ranges. And I only look at monthly time frames because I feel like you get the best impression of Bitcoin and the crypto markets movements when you're looking at monthly candles. And that is what I'm about to break down to you. So like I said, we've been running since January of 2023. Bitcoin is up over 1,000%. We're on roughly day 798. Okay, we're approaching that 800-day mark for the bull run. In 2021, the cycle lasted from February of 2019 to October of 2021. That maxed out at 1,004 days. That's the anomaly. I don't hear a lot of people talking about this either, but this bull run is nowhere near as not as much money was made this bull run as the 2021 bull run. Yet the evaluations and the prices of these assets are much higher. We also had more catalysts in the market. Proper regulation, stablecoin wave, ETFs, corporate companies buying assets, placing them as treasuries. So much more to be excited about this cycle, yet we're not making nearly the amount of gains that were made in 2021, in the 2021 cycle. Then again, I'm looking at the charts here. And y'all know, I only bring out a chart when I see something that genuinely concerns me. And that is what I'm seeing here. This is over the last few months for 2025. And you can see where we bumped up against that top band. I want to say this is May, June. Then we began to pull back. And in July, we began to touch it again. And what we're seeing today is what they call resistance. 120,000 is a resistance level for Bitcoin, which means it's going to take a lot of motivation to get it past that particular price point. I don't see where that motivation comes from over the next few months. I don't. The soonest we'll hear anything about the Clarity Act is September. After that, what else do we have? In 2026, Donald is going to be concerned about defending his spot for the midterms, getting ready for the election. So I'm bringing this out now because the conditions in the market, they don't look necessarily good to me. And as someone who reads headlines constantly, I have began to notice when the publications shift the sentiment. When the publications shift their sentiment, the market sentiment shifts with it. That is what I've seen, guys. So to bring it all home, I believe we've been rallying nonstop since January of 2023. We've successfully recovered the gains we lost in the 2022 bear market. We've set new all-time highs. ISO is already activated here in the United States. We've already had the halving. Donald Trump and all of his crypto promises, well, everything on that about that is on autopilot. And you could argue that all of those promises were baked into the rally that we just experienced. So I ask you, what else is this market? What else does Bitcoin have to be excited about? With the exception of the halving, which is scheduled for 2028. So I'm basing my investment decisions on that argument there. There's nothing left for Bitcoin to get excited about. It has already performed. It was already the belle of the ball. Bitcoin got its glass slipper. It's time to go to bed. It's time to go to bed for a while. But I'm now going to tell you why that excites me so much. Guys, it's time to talk some Elite 8 business. Because if the market is getting ready to correct, then this is the perfect opportunity for us to dive full steam ahead into the assets that we have studied, that we have researched, that we have followed throughout this entire cycle. I know a lot of you have joined this channel in the last 2 years, and I want to thank you. I've gone through a lot of changes, not only professionally, but personally. And the fact that you've stuck around, man, I wish I could meet you in person. Can't wait for the day I start doing events. Oh, that's coming. But I'm excited because I now know how all of this works. I know how it all works, the cycles, how they go up and down, and what makes them go up and down. And the fact that the crypto space is not that far off from the stock market, and you can play them both. So I'm excited for a correction because now I get to apply all of the things I've learned in the last 5 years about how to invest smarter. I'm about to go insane. Let me share with you the Elite 8 assets, ladies and gentlemen. These are the 8 assets that I will be holding from now until 2028. I've broken this bag down into 4 quadrants. You may recognize this as the design and structure of the channel's homepage here on YouTube, where we have the playlist broken down into sectors: enterprise, infrastructure networks, DeFi protocols, and gaming / Web3. I put them all in the same boat. But that is how the portfolio is broken up as well. I have 2 enterprise assets, 2 infrastructure assets, infrastructure networks. These are networks that connect other networks. 2 gaming and 2 DeFi assets. Now, let's start with gaming because these 2 were the easiest to decide on. I'm focused on virtual worlds fan engagement with this play, so I'm going with Immutable X and Flow from Dapper Labs. I've praised Immutable X enough. We understand the innovation that was the immutable passport. No one else has been able to replicate that. We see the benefits of ZK and VM. And once they went full steam and brought it over to immutable, because remember, it was a shared thing with Polygon, it improved the gaming experience even more. And the final feather in the cap, Robbie Ferguson is pointing out, which is the CEO for Immutable, he's pointing out how the Clarity Act has language in it that paves the way for mainstream companies, entertainment brands, Grand Theft Auto, to come out with their own gaming token. I am not missing that wave because it'll kick off 2027. Mark my words. The Clarity Act will be signed into law. Let's say we get it for Christmas. We got to wait at least 12 months for companies to first learn blockchain, learn Web3, learn how a tokenized economy would even fit in their game. Then they have to learn about the new in-game economies. All of these things have to be studied, researched. People have to be hired to study. That takes time. But I can see as we get ready for the next election cycle, the next halving cycle, things starting to sound familiar, right? We're going to start getting announcements from major game companies. We're going to get announcements from major entertainment companies about their brand new Web3 product. That's what I'm seeing, folks. And on the other side of that is the Flow blockchain. Flow is from Dapper Labs. Dapper Labs gave us NBA Top Shot a few years ago. Now, I would give credit to the Flow blockchain for kicking off the NFT era in crypto. A little bit before the metaverse became a thing during the 2021 run. Prior to that, it was the NFTs. Everybody had a fancy new NFT project. Flow, however, showed up with the first IP-based NFT project that was backed by a major name in the form of the National Basketball Association. They're getting ready to take that to the next level. And I don't want to miss out on what they're doing. Flow is a Web3 protocol that allows businesses and people like me and you to build Web3 fan engagement economies, if that makes sense, or the digital collectibles that can be used pretty much anywhere. When you look at their website, you'll see they got relationships with Disney, Marvel, Mattel. And these are companies that are starting to now study Web3 and figure out how they can further monetize their IPs. The reason why I picked Flow, because I know a lot of you are like, what about that Chili's thing with the sports? I'm going to tell you the reason why. One, strategically, I want to keep all of my assets on one platform. Flow, as well as Immutable, and the rest of the assets on the list are all on Uphold. So that makes it easy. Two, Chili still has to overcome the US barrier. Flow has been operating here in North America, in the United States, since inception. They've never come across any regulatory issues when it comes to their NFTs or digital collectibles. And there was a ruling in 2023 from the SEC stating that NFTs wouldn't be considered securities. Doubling back to the Clarity Act, that same language that paves the way for gaming tokens on chains like Immutable also clears the path for digital assets, digital tokens, digital collectibles that Flow builds. So when it comes to gaming and Web3, I'm going virtual worlds fan engagement, and I'm doing it through Immutable X and Dapper Labs Flow blockchain. Now let's move forward. Let's talk DeFi. This one was a bit tougher, and I only made the decision in the last couple of days. I'm going with the DeFi King, Ethereum, and the RWA Herald in Ondo Finance. I have read so much about. Let me stop my timer here because I'm going over. That's just what it is. I have read so much about Ethereum in my 5.5 years in this space that if you ask me, would anybody flip it anytime soon? I'm going to look you dead in the eye and I'm going to tell you, you are out of your flipping mind. You're out your flipping mind. Okay? It is now undisputed that Ethereum is the backbone of this entire thing. Bitcoin is the front man. Ethereum is the offensive line. Okay? Bitcoin's the quarterback. Ethereum's the offensive line. And we got 5 horses. Okay? Big hogs on our offensive line thanks to Ethereum. I'm done with the sports analogies, but there's no disputing Ethereum anymore. The CBDCs, the stable coins, the DeFi, the gaming, the institutionals, the RWAs, it's all going to Ethereum first. And now that Ethereum is proof of stake, this is the best chance to truly get into Ethereum, especially while it's still under 4,000. I've seen Ethereum above 4,000. Ooh, wee Jenkins, okay? I should bring this up as well, and I'll mention more a little bit about this as we get into the allocations, but I'm also staking ETH through Uphold, 2.5%. Now, my understanding of staking has changed in the last few months because I've also been exploring other investment channels through my credit union. I've been messing around with CDs that give me certain yield on, the amounts that I put in there. And I'm looking at the staking setup last night, and I'm like, this is a certificate of deposit on blockchain. It's the exact same thing. And if you treat it as such, it makes investing in it so much easier. So I'm going with Ethereum, excuse me, as the king of DeFi. Ondo Finance and the Ondo chain and their work with JP Morgan, Connexus, having Patrick McHenry on the council, the U.S. clearance already, the acquisition of a SEC registered capital markets company. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering that, but you guys know about the acquisition I'm talking about. I see Ondo Finance as the stellar for RWAs. That's the feeling I'm getting here. That's my feeling, guys. I have a connection to Ondo, an understanding of Ondo in relation to RWAs, the same way that I have a deep understanding of how Stellar is fit into the world of payments. Again, it's not conversions. It's not, being a bridge asset. It is the new generation. I thought I had my wallet here. But it's the new generation of wallets. They're all in here now. They'll all be in here going forward. That's where Stellar's bag is. Ondo is building out the rails for companies to get involved with the tokenization of their real world assets. Yes, private credit. Yes, U.S. treasuries. Yes, commodities like gold and silver. But what about other forms of assets, such as digital documents and credit lines? And, well, not credit lines, they're digital documentation. So we're talking real estate trusts, real estate deeds here. Certain legal contracts will also be tokenized. So I see Ondo Finance capturing that market share because they already built the relationships with the biggest enterprises that entered RWA first. So that gives them a leg up. When I get into the allocations, it'll all make a little bit of sense, though. my positioning. That'll truly lock things in here. But as far as DeFi, Ethereum and Ondo, that's what I'm going with. Now let's go over to infrastructure. Again, infrastructure networks are networks that I consider that connect other networks. That's how I'm looking at it. So yes, you have Ethereum and its abundance of layer twos, but I'm talking about networks that are interoperable with multiple chains. And these two networks are going to shock you. The first one is Bitcoin. I am not missing the Bitcoin boat. I have sat back since 2019 and watched person after person after person after person become a Bitcoin millionaire. And if price projections are true for Bitcoin over the next 5 years, just next 5 years, there is still time for you to make a boatload of money with Bitcoin. Still time. In addition to that, guys, the next era of Bitcoin, and I believe I made this argument in 2023 when Bitcoin was added to the Elite Eight then. The next era of Bitcoin includes the Lightning Network. It includes DeFi. It includes ordinals or NFTs in the form of BRC20. And it also includes gaming. What I'm getting at here is there are multiple networks connecting themselves to Bitcoin right now that are bringing utility to the big B. Up to this point, we had not seen a utility era for Bitcoin. But now the network is capable of doing it. I truly lean on what Jack Dorsey and his guys over at Block are going to do with the Lightning Network. And they aren't the only ones. Look into a company called River Financial. They make use of the Lightning Network. And they also study other companies that make use of the Lightning Network. The Lightning Network is the underlying channel for Bitcoin that is instant. Instant for Bitcoin standards, okay? Still takes 2 minutes roughly, depending on your connection to the internet, but it's the fastest form of Bitcoin. And if now things are going to change to align with the original premise of the Bitcoin white paper, where Bitcoin is used as a transaction layer, a peer-to-peer currency, it will be the Lightning Network to manifest that. And like I said, I have researched hours, days, months, and I know it's coming. On top of that, if we're talking money, with our Elite 8 portfolio study from 2023, we pretty much mathematically proved that holding Bitcoin in your portfolio will make you more money. So, read a bunch of reports about that. Now we have the numbers to support it. So going forward, I'm not missing anything about Bitcoin. In addition, now there are easier ways to invest. I am investing in Bitcoin through Cash App. It is automated. A lot of these, as a matter of fact, all of these investments are automated. I'm going to get into that too. But let me finish this list out. Next to Bitcoin, in the realm of infrastructure, I'm going with Solana. Solana is getting ready to drop hardware on this market. And not many people can see it today. Give it 3 years. When Solana has a mobile phone that is just as popular as Metro PCS, we don't even need to get to the big time. Just Metro. You start taking a little market share away from Metro as a crypto company, people are going to start talking about that. Okay. I want to say Solana. I remember watching Solana. What was it? Almost $400. Yeah, I want a piece of that as well. Also, Solana staking. Pretty good rates here. I'm getting 6.9% staking Solana on Uphold. I believe Solana is the next generation of Ethereum. I'm also going into Solana because with it being in the top 10 market cap, when I go to present this portfolio, to leverage this portfolio to get extra funding, or let's just say I want to make a play where I'm going to get a house. When they read the assets that I'm holding and they see Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, the top 3, that makes the portfolio look a lot better, ladies and gentlemen. So far we got Immutable Flow, Ethereum, Ondo, Bitcoin, and Solana. Now let's talk about the enterprise assets. Enterprise assets are assets that I consider those helping banks, organizations, financial institutions with embedding blockchain technology into their existing systems. For that, I'm going with Stellar and XRP. Yep, XRP made the cut, ladies and gentlemen. And it's for the same reasons as Ethereum, as Bitcoin, as Immutable. I've done the research. And every bit of information that I have come across has confirmed to me that you cannot go wrong with either one. So I'm holding both. Let's get this money. All right. So I'm holding both. Let's get this money. Do I need to go into why Stellar and XRP? I don't think I do. You guys already know what they're going to offer, what they're going to do, where they're going to be placed. We've touched on it so many times in this episode itself. Stellar could very well be the backbone for college sports in the future. When it comes to the XRP ledger, now that they have EVM compatibility, I ain't going nowhere. Now that they have smart contracts, I ain't going nowhere. In the previous cycle, Stellar and XRP didn't have the stablecoin presence that they have today. They didn't have smart contracts, which means that they were miles away from DeFi. That's another thing. The rise in yield opportunities for XRP will make the next leg up that much stronger. We won't be waiting another 2 years to see XRP crack $3. I can guarantee you that. So that is why I have added them to the Elite 8. Now let's end with the most important portion here. Allocations. How am I going to divide this basket up? I love the stories that we've gotten recently about treasury companies because they're also breaking down how they're dividing the assets, the allocations. 25% is going into BTC. That's just the smartest thing to do. That's the quarterback. That's the leader of the market. It has historically performed better than any other asset. So if you want your portfolio to do the same thing, you add Bitcoin. 20% goes to both Ethereum and Solana. I'm putting 20% into my staked assets because that's going to continue to generate income on its own after a while. Then we have 10% to XLM and XRP. Why 10%? Well, I'm trying to play this smart. And they're only getting 10%, one, because the yield hasn't kicked in yet. And two, there are still some things that we can see down the road that may be very big barriers to adoption for both networks. Because yes, Stellar is the king when it comes to wallets. But what is the chances of another network popping up to challenge Stellar directly? We can't rule that out, ladies and gentlemen. Same thing goes for the XRP ledger. Admittedly, Ripple's battle with the SEC held the ledger back. So there is still a few barriers that they have to overcome. That would explain the 10%. And then for the last three, 5% into Ondo, 5% into IMX, and 5% into Dapper Labs Flow blockchain. 5%, well, those are riskier markets. RWA could collapse at any moment because they find a new way to do it. Just got to be aware of those things. Same can be said for blockchain games. Yes, the Clarity Act paves the way for these tokens to be created, but what guarantees that they choose immutable? I'm aware of these things here. Okay. And when you go to build your portfolio, I want you to carry this same line of thinking. Same thing goes for flow. Dealing with the entertainment industry in general, there's a thin line. It's very fickle because of its trendy, fleeting nature. So when investing into fan engagement, digital collectibles, digital art, don't put all your eggs into that basket because that basket is made of wicker. Wicker ain't real durable. So that is my approach towards that. Now, on my website, I did write an article here, or I'm crafting, it probably will be up by the end of the week. So if you're watching this later in the week, yeah, I wrote an article and it'll be on my website. It'll give you more details in full about the portfolio, as well as what I'm holding in the stock market. I am applying the exact same strategy to the stock market, with the exception of there's an extra asset. I got 9 stocks that I'm holding. I'll tell you those are Nvidia, Circle, Coinbase, Google Class A, Netflix, Paramount Class B, PayPal, Roblox, and a juicy little fund that I discovered called the JP Morgan Equity Premium Income ETF. $58 a share, 30-day yield, 8.5%, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it's on Robinhood. Oh, man. So, like I said, I am actively praying for a correction because I'm ready to start the season over. I'm ready to start the season 0-0. Clean slate. Because by 2028, I plan to be filthy rich. Very much so. So with that, I hope you guys take my advice. Not as financial, of course. You know how we like to do it. Coffee table talk. But I hope to see y'all in 2028 with all these bags and these dollars that we're going to get with this new strategy, with this plan. Like I said, guys, that's it for this show. Again, if you made it to the end, drop DHN down in the comments. I want to thank y'all for rocking with me. And if you want to support the channel, don't forget to check out the new website, digitalhustlenetwork.net. With that, y'all know what time it is. If that money is digital, so is the hustle.